And you know what else is spot on? The box office for this damn movie.
I'm
And
sure.
it's funny because it's become a bit of like a heated debate online. If you go over on the Twitter, there's plenty of DC fans who are now armchair quarterbacking the box office results thus far and trying to act like the film is a failure of some kind, or dare I say, a flop of some kind. And I actually had to tweet about it today. I made a whole thread discussing this because to me, it's all so disingenuous, it's all so cynical. And I just want to break this down a little bit. Okay. Just to
Yeah.
answer the question at the bottom of the screen, is the Batman a flop? Unequivocally, no, it is not. It is already turned a profit. And it's going to continue to turn profits because people actually like the movie. So instead of having historic drops, it's continuing to build on its box office cume. Forbes has it going north of 800 million bucks, which is a big deal. Remember, this is a reboot, and it's like the 89th reboot of Batman that people have seen. This is a standalone reboot that has no shared universe connections. It's 3 hours long and plays almost entirely to grown-ups. Kids are basically dissuaded from seeing this damn thing. This is not, this was never going to be a $1 billion movie. It would have been nice. It would have been nice, but that was never the expectations. This was a $185 scaled down, more character driven film that was never going to be one of those $1 billion makers. And it doesn't have to be. But the reason that you have people rooting against it, the reason that you have people pointing and laughing at the box office results is because you still have Snyder fans out there. And yes, I make a distinction. I think that the most ardent, most vocal fans in that fandom, they're not DC fans at all. They are Snyder fans. They only care about one director and one director's vision only. They don't care about these characters aside from how this one guy would handle them. So you have a bunch of these people who are disingenuously making these arguments, and they're doing it because they were told for years that since BVS didn't make $1 billion, it was an underperformer. It was a disappointment. And they still can't wrap their heads around that to this day. And listen, and that's one of the things I address in the thread, that on paper, and you hear a film makes $874 million. Yeah, that's on the surface. That sounds really good. But those were not the expectations for Batman versus Superman. That wasn't, that wasn't meant to be Captain America 2 or Thor 2 or some like middle chapter of a much longer thing. This was
Ew.
meant to be, yeah, Thor 2, yuck. But, this was meant to be like technically the first Justice League movie. It's in the title. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. What are they talking about? This is the precursor to the Justice League. And in the trailers, we're going to show you we've got Batman, we've got Superman, we have the first ever big screen Wonder Woman. There's going to be Doomsday, one of the biggest storylines in Superman's history. We're going to do the Death of Superman storyline. And again, and for those of us who were paying attention, we knew that Aquaman was going to be teased, and the Flash was going to be teased, and Cyborg was going to be teased. Like, they put all their eggs in one basket to make this like an Avengers style event film to set up not only Justice League, but the entire rest of the DCEU. So 874 mil was not what they were hoping to get on that movie. And when Deadline ultimately crunched those numbers and looked at all the expenditures, Warner Brothers made $106 million on that movie. That's not a great profit when you've put all your eggs in that one basket and you're treating this movie as the launch pad for everything else you want to do with these characters. So people didn't understand that 6 years ago and are now using their lack of understanding of that to try and depict the Batman as some kind of flop and some kind of disappointment. And it just shows such a gross misunderstanding of how all this works and what the expectations actually were. And listen, the general rule of thumb is you got to double the budget. And if The Batman was the 185 million that Forbes recently said. That means we're looking at 370. 370 was the magic number. And guess what? The movie's already at 609, and it's going to keep on climbing. So don't listen to anyone out there who's telling you that the Batman is some sort of disappointment, especially when you factor in that China has been a fairly important market for these movies for a few years now. And half of China is shut down due to COVID lockdowns. So it just had a relatively soft launch in China. Who knows what it would have been had it gotten the extra 100 million that it would have normally made under normal circumstances. So just to kind of bang the gavel on this, no, the Batman is not a flop. Are you overseeing these debates too, Brett?
Yeah, it just like from the Snyder fans, it just reeks of like propaganda.
And
It
sour
just
grapes?
yeah, of trying to like pitch this narrative to like, I guess convince casual people on the internet that that's like the reality.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect of it, and which I find just like nauseating and so like juvenile.
Yeah.
It's just silly. But also, and you mentioned this in your thread on Twitter, but we're in a post-pandemic world. Or I mean,
Yes.
I would love it. Post is being generous. Like it's still around. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
definitely way better than it was, but it's still around. So you're dealing with that. There are a lot of people that are still not comfortable. I know people in my circle that are still not comfortable going to the movies. They still are
Mm-hmm.
taking a lot of precautions. So you have to factor that in, for the whole country.
Yeah.
Then not only that, keep in mind, Batman versus Superman did not have to contend with the fact that everyone knows that in 45 days after the theatrical release, it will be on HBO Max, which
Yeah.
if I'm already a subscriber. So like that is not something to be
Yeah,
to
it's a very different landscape.
like I know so many people that are just like, yeah, I have HBO Max. I'll just wait till it comes out. Why am I going to go with me and my girlfriend? I got to go spend $40 or plus more if I'm going to get snacks and candy, or I
Mm-hmm.
already pay $10 a month or whatever for HBO Max, like, and it comes out in April. I could wait a month and a half and just watch it then.
Yeah.
So a lot of you cannot underestimate how many people have that mentality.
Yeah.
So it's very different. It's very, very different.
And
We're in a totally different world.
And it's very different from the other big recent comic book release that did billions. Because some people have tried to compare it to Spider Man No Way Home and have tried to say, like, oh, Warner Brothers was expecting those kind of numbers. And it's like, are you on crack? No, they weren't. Okay. Spider
Yeah.
Man No Way Home is not a reboot, it's not a brand new character. This is like the 25th Marvel movie, and it was an event film at that everyone knew it was going to have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And
Yeah.
this was, this was a big culmination event of Tom Holland's Spider-Man arc. That's also now setting up the rest of what he's got going on. This had lead-ins like Avengers Endgame and everything that's come before it. Like, there's no way that the expectations for Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a 4-quadrant blockbuster, the kind of movie that will appeal to seniors, it'll appeal to middle-aged folks, it'll appeal to people in their 20s and 30s, and it'll appeal to kids. The Batman isn't designed that way. The Batman is just aimed almost entirely at that 18 to 34 demographic. So when you're cutting out the family also, that's also going to bring the expectations down. So this idea that Warner Brothers was expecting it to do Spider-Man No Way Home's numbers, it's just preposterous. A lot of the stuff people are saying to try to act like there's a fire going on about the movie's box office is just preposterous. So let's just put that to bed. The Batman is a success. We got the spinoffs. We're getting the sequels coming. People are excited about the world that Matt Reeves has introduced us to. The entire internet is talking about this Barry Keoghan deleted scene today. The Batman's doing just fine. All right.